G'day everyone, welcome to my round 2 review of the games. Pretty shocking performance from Freo. Probably dive into that one first. So let's get into it. So, mate, I had a fairly full-on weekend, didn't get to watch many of the games, but I told people, don't let me know what the Freo result is, I'll watch it on KO on Sunday night. So I'd stayed up to 11 to watch Freo just fall over against St Kilda. And it's our third quarter again that's cost us. I don't know what the halftime talk is, but it's 2 weeks in a row. Last week we were lucky, and this week Saints held on much better than Adelaide did. And our system going forward is just perplexing. So we've got 3 rucks, essentially, Meek, Darcy and Lob. And we're playing slow, chip the ball around. We're not going in deep. And then Darcy comes off, and then we start going in deep and not even kicking it to these guys. And we're asking Frederick to take Mark of the Year over people. So I'm not sure if that's been lost from like the players understanding what the game plan is and what the coaches are saying to them, because I really thought that was the biggest gap in our gameplay yesterday. There were a few players that really wanted to pot and get really angry at, but I think I was more just like, there were definitely players that didn't play well. I'm not giving them an out, but it's also only round 2, so I don't want to draw lines through players' careers or anything like that, but there's definitely some guys that are on watch. So Walters, not a great game again. I've got the AFL player ratings up, and he actually had a negative impact in the game. Now, I know some people don't give the AFL player ratings much credence, but I always look at the ratings and sort of go with my eye test as well. So, like, you know, guys at the top are like Max King, Andrew Brayshaw, Hayden Young. I go, yep. Like, I thought those players all had, like, significant impact on the game. And then I look at guys like Walters and I go, yeah, he had some decent moments, kicked a goal, but there's just so many contests he didn't impact. And so I'm not surprised to see him like as the worst on ground. Guys like Frederick couldn't get near it. Banfield couldn't get near it, didn't really have an impact. Schultz thought he had quite a quiet game. And some of our forwards, I think, they were impacted by our poor game style. Like, we're not getting it in there. We had very few inside 50s. So it doesn't surprise me too much that guys like Lockie Schultz, who's like one of our crummers, can't get near it because we're not going in there. Like, kick it to Lob or Darcy and just ask them to make a contest, and then these guys can get into the game. So I won't be too critical of the smalls, and you could argue Walters falls into that a bit. And then I'm looking at people like Darcy Tucker, like, mate, you're in the prime. Like, have an impact. You've got the younger guy on the team, Brayshaw, the leading midfielder. You're the most senior bloke without Mundy and Fife there. Like, give him a chop out. Sarong, I think it's a bit similar last year. He had a bit of a slow start to the year. He wasn't terrible, but he's just got such a high ceiling that we all know he can perform to, and to see him just be sort of middle of the ground average, I think that's a bit disappointing. I thought the Saints mids, they weren't dominant. They got their hands on the ball more, but I can't say it's a dominant performance because they kicked so poorly. So there was enough pressure affecting some of their disposal. Who did I think played well yesterday? So Brayshaw Young definitely played well. I thought Ryan played well. I thought Lob played well, and that's part of like why it was frustrating we weren't going forward, was because in the first quarter he was dominant. He was making a contest, and it's like the guys didn't want to use him. I don't understand. Like, when you got a guy that's running hot, like, capitalise on that. You see, like, Max King kicks 3 goals in 5 minutes because they just kick the ball to him. All right. Pierce. So I thought he had a good game outside of like that 5 minutes where Kings kicked 3 goals on him. But when the opposition key forward has kicked 4 goals, in a scoreline where your opponent's going to kick 9. So it's not half their score effectively. Like, that's the difference. That, like, I don't know if Pearce has just switched off for 5 minutes or he's handed over and his teammate hasn't picked it, like whether it was Hamling or Logue haven't picked up the slack. But yeah, it's these like fade outs, and I think that like he's the captain. It's the third quarter, and we've leaked 6 goals, and I think we leaked 6 goals last week as well in the third quarter. It's all about mindset. These guys can actually put it together. I believe in this team. They have their moments where you think, oh, they're like world beaters, and then they serve that up. And whether Longmuir's worked on like defense season 1, attack season 2, this season it needs to be all about mindset. Like there's some guys on the team who don't play to their potential week in, week out. They only want to do it sometimes. And whether they think it's because they've done enough or their opponent they're playing on this week's better than them, whatever it is, they just need to get it into their head that consistent performance, give it a crack. Like, look at Brayshaw, right? He isn't the most gifted technical player. Like, there's guys with better disposals running around in other midfields. But what does he do? He tries, like, every time. Like, he's down back, he's in the middle, he's up forward, he's getting in handball chains, he's tackling, he's running people down. Like, he's given his all, you can tell. And it looks like there's some other blokes out there that they don't want to give 100% every single time. And they can. They can have an impact on games. So I'm looking at guys like Banfield, for example. He looks like a millionaire pre-season. I mean, he's playing against oppositions that don't really matter. Then he misses goals from 15 metres out against Adelaide, and then has a game like yesterday where he just goes missing, doesn't really have an impact. Throw your body around, mate. Like, yeah. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about the Freo game. A bit wound up, but also just trying to put it in perspective of, it's only round 2. And yes, we should beat St Kilda at home. In my mind, that just means we now need to go win a game we weren't expected to win. Whether that's at home against a decent team, or we need to go away. We need to beat someone away from home we probably weren't expected to beat. Like, it all balance out. So it's not doom and gloom this early on. In terms of the other tips and games, I didn't watch too many of them because my weekend was I was doing some other things. I did see the Thursday, Friday games. My overall tipping wasn't great. I went, I think, 4 out of 9. And that was only because I changed from West Coast in my previous video to North Melbourne after I saw all the extra outs from West Coast. So, the Western Bulldogs against Carlton. So, Blues looked good. I watched this game. The Doggies, I'm getting a bit concerned about their key position players, particularly down back, like key position backs. Like, they just didn't really have an answer for Mackay or Curnow. And while I thought their mids had good games, it just felt like Carlton's midfield were like more effective with the ball. Like, you'd have Cripps getting it, going forward, kicking goals. And you just didn't see that when the Bulldogs were in control. They missed a few chances they could have kicked. I'm a bit worried about the Dogs. They've started 0-2 before, and I think this week they play Sydney. And I've tipped against Sydney 2 weeks in a row, and they've also gotten up. So, and I've tipped Doggies twice in a row. I tipped them to lose against the Demons, but it's going to be a very hard game to tip, that next one. But it's panic stations, I think, a little bit. If they go 0-3, the record sort of shows that very hard to finish top 4, and then finals might even be a bit of a question mark. The thing for the Doggies, though, is like they've shown they can make grand finals if they finish 5-8. So, a little bit of a question mark there, I think, in terms of like their key defenders. Like, and they're going up against Sydney this week. Is the emotion of like Franklin and all that going to mean Sydney have a bit of a lull this week? I don't know. The Sydney Geelong game, I watched a bit of this one as well. I think Geelong's midfield just got like bullied. It wasn't until the third quarter I was like, oh, Dangerfield's actually playing. I thought he was like an out or an injury. And he was clamped quite well. And Sydney are just looking very clinical. Very clinical. I'd rated them to not play finals this year. I think they'll play finals. Like, I watched 2 games and I'm like, yeah, I got that call wrong. They're looking strong around the ground. Down back, looking very good. I thought they'd be a bit challenged with probably Rampy towards the end. But they've got the McCartan brothers that just look like impenetrable down there. So, yeah, I'd be watching Sydney closely this year. I think they can do a bit of damage. Parker's playing incredible. All things going well there. These games I didn't really watch, these like following ones. So Collingwood got over Adelaide kind of as expected. Bigger margin than what I thought. Bombers against Brisbane. I did watch a quarter or 2 of this one. I thought Bombers would start well and Brisbane would run them over, which is pretty much exactly what happened. Huge upset. Hawthorn went over and absolutely pumped Port Adelaide. Looking at the stat sheet, Port had like good inside 50s and everything. Are they missing Alir? It's a bit concerning for Port. So they're 0-2 as well. I think they play Adelaide next week. So, and the showdowns have typically been a lot closer than like the Western Derbies, for example, where, you know, whichever team's on top typically wins. So like you'd expect Port to win. But the showdown history's kind of been a much closer contested, irrespective of ladder position. So that'll be a tricky one for them. Demons kind of got over Gold Coast expectedly, but it wasn't a massive margin. I think Gold Coast showed a bit of fight in that game. North got over West Coast. It was close for periods of that game, but I thought West Coast, you know, the number of outs they had, I just had to change my tip, and I was glad I did. Richmond got over Giants. I don't know, with this GWS team. It's almost a rating like the script last year where they went, I think, 0-3 to start the year and then went bang, bang, bang and ended up finishing in the 8. I looked at the midfields here and went, it's literally just Trent Cotchin and Shai Bolton. Prestia. Like, they had so many outs. Like, no, not Prestia, sorry, Castagna. Prestia was out. Lambert was out. Voston's out. Like, so many outs for Richmond. It's a good performance to get up, kick over 100 points, and beat the Giants. But it's like, same sort of story with the Giants. It's like, you've got this awesome midfield, but you're not running 2 ways. You're not applying pressure. I watched maybe like 10 minutes of the third quarter, and it was like goal for goal, like going each way. And it's like, Giants, like, you got a chance to like close the gap here, apply some pressure. Like, these Richmond guys will just run off them. So, I'm not sure if Leon Cameron is in this sort of like weird space. He's taken them to a grand final. Now, they've still got like a stacked midfield if you look at the names on paper, but they're not performing. It definitely needs a bit of a look at. I get it, their forward line's not much chop, but like 73 point, you've had 23 scoring shots, so they were a little bit accurate. You can't be giving up 29 scoring shots going the other way. And yeah, I get it, Phil Davis went off. I think Haynes didn't have the best game. But you've got to apply pressure up the ground. Like, you can't just put it all on your back line. So, yeah, Giants, one to watch. And it's interesting, like, probably teams that you wouldn't expect to be 0-2. Giants, Port Adelaide, Western Bulldogs. Be very interesting to see how they go into round 3. And then lastly, Freo. I already talked about them. Ugh. Okay. So, I'll be doing predictions for later in the week. Let me know how you thought about the Freo game. Happy to hear from opposition supporters as well. Normally I'm a bit protective of the team, but I'm happy for the blowtorch to be applied. So let me know what you think in the comments. Give us a like, and thanks for tuning in. See ya.